This is my analysis of the Democratic candidate debate put on NBC. First of all, the same criticisms that I made about the Republican debate. It's not really a debate, it's a joint press conference. They can't ask each other questions. But also the issue of conflict of interest. Now, here there's not only the conflict of interest between NBC and having the issues discussed thoroughly with the reasoning behind the differences, as opposed to NBC's interest in having an exciting, dramatic, emotionally intense debate. There's another conflict of interest. This debate is sponsored by the Congressional Black Caucus, which is a special interest, and the fundamental objective of the Congressional Black Caucus is not to treat black people equally with the rest of the citizens, but to give them an edge, an advantage, affirmative action, where their blackness is used to get certain benefits. In other words, they don't believe in equality. And this gives you an insight into all of these Democratic constituencies. So let's talk about the debate itself. You can see how the questions were slanted towards benefiting Clinton because she was endorsed by this special interest group. And therefore, of course, the questions for Bernie Sanders, which is the only real opponent, were much tougher and accusatory than the ones against Clinton, which they didn't go after any of her flip-flops, any of her lies on Benghazi or the email or anything. They don't want to touch that stuff because the group that is sponsoring the debate already endorsed Clinton. And so it's going to be favorable to her, and was. Anyway, in order to understand the Democratic Party and the difference between the Republican Party on the fundamental domestic issue, which is redistribution of wealth, what you need to know is that whatever a Republican wants to redistribute, because they also want to redistribute wealth, the Democrat wants to redistribute more. So that's what it's all about. It's about redistributing more than the Republican. So if to take an example, if the Republican wants to redistribute $1 trillion, well, then the Democrat wants to redistribute $1.5 trillion. Whatever the Republican wants, they want more. And then this will also help you understand the essence of each candidate. So Bernie Sanders, which is the most socialist candidate, he wants to redistribute more money than Clinton, and Clinton wants to redistribute a bit less than Bernie Sanders, to still be a Democrat, but not as progressive or socialistic as Bernie. O'Malley, who knows, he's in the middle. It doesn't really count because there's no support for him. Anyway, that's what you need to know about the difference between the candidates and amongst each other, and the Democratic candidates versus the Republican candidates. Now, how is it that the Democrats are going to get, and have gotten in the past, 51% of the votes, or you can win an election, that's what Obama got, and redistribute the money and benefits and privileges to their 51%, and at the expense of the other 49, because that's what they believe in, simply by cobbling together enough special interest groups so they can get the 51%. So who are their special interest groups? Well, they appeal to the women. They don't say at the expense of men, but yes, it's at the expense of men. Appeal to the blacks, the Latinos, every special interest group that they can think of, environmentalists, people that are anti-guns, unions, whatever, any special interest group where they can get votes at the expense of the rest of the majority, they will favor them and offer them benefits, either money or special rights or privileges, at the expense of the rest of the American citizens. And when they can cobble together 51%, they can win an election. And that's a strategy. And this is called majority rule, which is not the original American system, which was a constitutional republic, where you could not do this wholesale redistribution of wealth because you had to respect the property rights of all people, and you could not deprive people of their property without due process of law. Then that meant no redistribution. Now the courts have let it go by, and they do it all the time. Both parties, the Republicans are the reverse. Whatever the Democrats want to redistribute, they want to redistribute less. They're trying to eke out the middle of the electorate, so they get pretty close to each other. That's why, to many of you, they may seem very similar, except that Bernie is a bit farther out. He's not trying to eke out the middle. He's trying to win a primary by appealing to the desire of the Democrats to get more money than they are already from the other people. In other words, to redistribute more money. And as he puts it, to ameliorate the income inequality that exists. And how is he going to do that? Well, he's going to tax the rich more and give more benefits to the poor and to the middle class at the expense of other people. And that he's going to do it more than Hillary Clinton. So on health care, Hillary Clinton came out, as you would expect, in support of Obamacare. Bernie Sanders came out in favor of universal health care, which will redistribute more and control more money and more of the economy by the government, and therefore people will be less free and have less of a right to dispose of their own income and decide how to spend their money. And you'll have more inefficiencies and worse service, like you did with the Veteran Administration, which is run by the government. And big surprise, horrible service. Anyway, this is the strategy that is used by the Democrats, and some examples of that in the debate. You saw that Bernie says that the Congress is owned by big money, that Clinton is corrupt because she is taking speaking fees from the banks, and corruption from the big banks and the PACs and the rich is what's ruining our system. And the solution to get rid of all that is to deprive them of their rights, take more money from them, make the government bigger, make the government control more of the economy, and we're going to have a great, thriving nation like all the other countries that have tried socialism and have been hurt by it. Some of those nations we can discuss later, but anyway, that's the essence of what this debate was all about. Now, an example of appealing to the special interest group that is sponsoring the debate, well, is Clinton. She says that there is systemic racism against blacks in the criminal justice system. Well, this is just one appeal to a special interest group, and the statistic is, more blacks are arrested, but nobody thinks, well, maybe more blacks are committing more crimes at a higher percentage than white people, and that's why they get arrested more often. Well, there's nobody to argue that side, because in this debate, all the Democrats are basically in agreement with raising the minimum wage, Black Lives Matter, which is an extreme special interest group, which is claiming that we shouldn't talk about all lives and equality, but only black lives, and they get insulted when you talk about everybody's lives matter. Anyway, this is what's happening in the Democratic Party, and they will make their appeal to all of these special interest groups if they are able to get together 51% of the electorate. They will stick it to the other 49 all the way. And that's called majority rule. And that's why the founding fathers did not want this majority rule on every question system. They did not want a popular democracy, because since people saw what happened in Greece, the Romans saw what happened. They saw that when you have a popular democracy, this is always the dynamic that occurs. Always what happens is that a, a majority of 51%, a little bit more, will get control of the power, and they will run roughshod over the rest of the citizens and deprive them of their rights, and they can do that legally. And that's the fundamental political issue. In the Republican Party, there's still a lot of people that believe in a constitutional republic, and this is a mistake that we should avoid, having a popular democracy. And that's really the only hope, because once you go for that, it's just about, I'm going to give you more money, more rights, more privileges, like Bernie Sanders is offering, than the other candidate in the primary. And when they go to the general election, it'll be the same thing. So that's what this whole debate is really about. I'd like to get your opinions, and or unless you want me to explain more stuff, like what is the basis for income inequality? What are the premises on which this view is based? Well, income inequality is premised on the idea that income belongs to everyone. And so if a rich person is getting more income than a poor person, obviously the rich person is getting more than his fair share. That's why Bernie is constantly talking about these rich people are taking more than their fair share of the wealth that belongs to everyone. And if a person is poor, it's because they are being cheated of their fair share. And he's just going to come in and do justice. Now, a complete communist will make Bernie pale by comparison, because he's going to redistribute even more than Bernie. And that's why it progresses from democratic socialism to communism, because ultimately the basis for this theory is that the wealth belongs to everyone. So from each according to their ability to each according to their need, which is the communist basic principle. And that's where it all ends up, in disaster and poverty for all. Thank you for watching.